I've been doing work around leadership development, coaching, and change management for about 15 years. Within the past couple of years, I've leaned in specifically with focusing on women in leadership, as well as women of color in leadership, and what has that experience been like. I own two businesses that allow me to talk about leadership and coach people. The first one is called Developing Capacity Consulting, and I work with individuals and organizations around adaptive leadership, which is the type of leadership I'll talk about in a second. Change management, so how do you approach the change process in a way that you honor those that are involved and create a system that would actually be sustained and not revert back 2 months later. And then advancing social justice strategies. So, our philosophy with there is that we are train the trainers. We come in, and when we work with an organization, we help you learn the language, the habits of mind, and the practices that we use so that you don't become dependent on us. You're actually able to do this work when we're no longer with you. Doing that work and just me having a passion for social justice and equity in women, I launched a company about 4 months ago called the Be Free Woman, B as in the buzzing bee. And that is really a company that I founded around coaching and the building skills for women of color to help us, remove the barriers of racism and sexism that, keep us from being our authentic selves in our careers. So I've been really leaned in and focusing on that. A part of my larger vision is not just to work with women of color and women in leadership, but also to partner with organizations that serve all women. And through Gracie, I developed a partnership, which I think is going to be a fruitful one, with Quilt, which is this idea of how are we talking about supporting women in sisterhood, but then also creating spaces to talk about women of color. So that's the background on me. But I'm here because I want to lead us in a conversation about what does it mean to exercise leadership as a woman today. And you'll hear me saying the exercise of leadership because there's a difference between leader and leadership. Leader is just authority that's given to someone in a position to perform a service. So if you're a CEO, you've been given authority to perform a particular service to an organization. We all know people who are in leader roles, but they're not exactly exhibiting leadership. Leadership is different. It's a set of practices. It's the way that we mobilize people together to tackle challenges and thrive, right? The exercising of leadership is not about maintaining the status quo. So I just wanted to start with a disclaimer between the two.
Great.
And a lot of my work in leadership is informed through the work of Dr. Ronald Heifetz. He teaches in the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And that type of leadership is called adaptive leadership, which is how do you help people ensure that they're solving the right problems? And then two, how do you mobilize people to be willing to go against the grain with change? Meaning change requires loss for people, right? It's difficult. That's why people resist change, because there's a loss associated with it. So a specific way of looking at how do you change behaviors, mindsets, and cultures, and then how do you do that in a way where you learn how to navigate the politics. So it's like the strategy and the politics of the situation. So that's what I work with people with. And I think as women, we know when we go into our roles and our jobs, it can be challenging. And if we don't have a strategy for how do we move through the space, it can be tiring. And so I want to kick us off with everyone going around and just saying your name and what does it mean to exercise leadership to you? This is your own personal definition of it. We'll start with you. Cool.
I'm Nicole. I feel like exercising leadership is being able to use your voice calmly and effectively in sort of any situation, and not allowing anyone to quiet you because they don't like what you're saying or they don't think that you're in the right position to be saying that, but just owning your voice and sort of maintaining that calmness that people respect you and there's not sort of anger or sadness. It's just no, this is the fact and this is how I'm going to present my voice or opinion on this.
Hi, I'm Yasmina, and leadership. I feel like it's. I'm thinking about it for the first time. What is after your definition, which I feel is very enlightening in understanding the difference between two, and as I'm entering roles that require that, and also as a mother, we are in leadership all the time, and I believe that as far as other things, leadership is inspiring through example actions, and that's the stronger voice. where sometimes what you say doesn't resonate with everybody in language as easily as your actions could do, which is a no language required action for me.
Yeah, I'm Hannah, and I was actually thinking similar to kind of echo that. I think of the people in my life and also the people that, I respect in other capacities, and what they have in common, is being the example and showing up in the example and not even saying it, but just doing it and being it in a way that just inspires action within me to support that mission. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bronte. To me, when I think of leadership, I think it's important to maintain and embody a sense of like humility in leadership and like humbleness, because I feel like people who are humble and exude like humility, I feel like they're very approachable in the sense of like it's a vulnerable thing to be like, you know what I mean, to be humble and to be vulnerable, and so I think doing that, it just provokes like a deeper conversation, one that I feel like everybody can like jump on board with, and like humility in the sense of like admitting that like you don't have all the answers, because I think a lot of times I'm like a very like authority seeker kind of thing, where I like put a lot into like authority figures and like kind of rely on people. I'm like, oh, they must have all the answers figured out, but like recognizing that like they don't have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. We're all growing. We're all learning. They might know more than me about this certain thing. I might know more than them about this. So we can all just come together and shed light onto different issues and topics as women.
So I'm Gracie. For me, it's interesting to kind of now as well, like separating both, like the leader and leadership, because I always kind of coincided with both of them. But for me, it's as well like just kind of standing up as well, like not only through words and communication, but through actions. Like that goes a long way. But also learning when to speak up, in terms of like if something's not going right, or if like it goes back to empathy and humbleness and just kind of connecting one another and making sure that that person stands up when need to.
I'm Gianna, and leadership. A lot of the time things come to me visually, and then I'm able to communicate them with words. But there's like this visual of an individual being able to take in information from so many different places, without necessarily becoming overwhelmed. So there's like an immense amount of capacity I think that's required, and then to be able to appreciate the different perspectives that do come in, because everyone definitely has a right to their own opinion, and their own challenges, and their own voice, most importantly. And so being able to tune into sometimes what's actually being said, and then to distill that down into something that feels like everyone has the opportunity to be heard, and then to execute from that place. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool.
Sorry, I'm like just telling people just join.
I'm Lisa. Trying to think something new because you guys know it.
It's your truth. It's what does it mean to exercise leadership to you? So this is your truth, and speak it.
Well, I feel like leadership comes from self-awareness. But really, really thoughtfully thinking about what your strengths are, and confidently presenting what you have to offer, unapologetically, with the notion that you'll grow and you'll change and you've said the final word, but this is the best of what you have to offer. And at the same time, you're saying there's a lot of strength and vulnerability, accepting what it is that you don't, and folding people in, you know more than you do from who you can learn from. So it's being strong with what you feel you have to offer, and being vulnerable with what you want to learn, and mixing that up. That's beautiful.
Just your name and what does it mean to exercise leadership to you?
My name's Anissa, and
my name is Anise.
Well, I've had a lot of experiences with leadership growing up as an athlete. So from a very young age, I was taught a lot of valuable life lessons. But as an adult and trying to translate that into the workplace or life, it mostly mirrors, but sometimes, people have a lot of egos and things, and that's where, like she said, self-awareness. I just try to, be in the moment as much as possible, without, projecting a lot of feelings. So I try to just navigate through, I don't know, just as best as I can. And I've always gravitated toward that way, and I don't know why, because like inside, like I'm kind of like screaming, but people just kind of look to me sometimes, and that gives me a lot of like gratitude that people are drawn to me. So I don't know.
Awesome. I appreciated hearing all of your perspectives about what does it mean to exercise leadership, because we have our own unique way that we show up and exercise that in different environments. And specifically why I think it's powerful that Quilt is having this conversation as the kickoff to this particular event is because, people are saying the future is female, like, no, the present is female. Right? The present is female, and actually we have always been instrumental to any sort of social change that's happened in the world. Women have been at the core of that, even if we were not given the credit for that. And so it warmed my heart to hear all of you talk about aspects of leadership that I would literally put on a slide when I go into to an organization or to work with an individual. It is about vulnerability. It is about listening to the song beneath the words, as we like to say, to be able to weave it together. It is about self-awareness. It is about being able to understand what the needs are of others. And so as you think about your own self and how you show up to exercise leadership, I want you to think about, where is an area where you are most confident? Like, I can do this with my eyes closed. I have not one shred of doubt in my ability to exercise leadership in this area. On the flip side, you can answer either or both. Where do you feel like you're least confident with exercising leadership? You can answer both or one or the other. And it's open. I'm not going to point to you. This is a space where we will self-authorize to just speak up.
I think definitely in the workplace. I'm in sales, and I'm not sure, I think it was you who said that people in power also don't always have the answers or what they're doing. And I work for like a family-owned company, and that's literally what we do all day long. And just trying to learn how to speak up. Like, you always try to wait for like the right moment, or you don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I don't know. It's really, you really do have to kind of pick and choose. It feels like. And I wish I could just say, hey, let's try to do this. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a confidence thing that I should just be more confident when I feel like something could be done a better way, or a different way, or a more efficient way.
So that's the area where you're least confident.
Oh, yeah.
Interjecting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, usually when I'm coaching women, I just talk to women today, like, you have to be political with when you speak up and when you don't. It is a muscle that one has to exercise, and I'm sure as a co-founder of an organization, there's probably things she wants to say all the time that she doesn't, because you have to be able to, you have to be calculated to think about this area. On the flip side, you can answer either or both. Where do you feel like you're least confident with exercising leadership? You can answer both or one or the other. And it's open. I'm not going to point to you. This is a space where we will self-authorize to just speak up.
I think definitely in the workplace. I'm in sales, and I'm not sure, I think it was you who said that people in power also don't always have the answers or what they're doing. And I work for like a family-owned company, and that's literally what we do all day long. And just trying to learn how to speak up. like you always try to wait for like the right moment, or you don't want to step on anybody's toes. But I don't know. It's really, you really do have to kind of pick and choose. It feels like I wish I could just, say, hey, let's try to do this. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a confidence thing that I should just like be more confident and feel like something could be done a better way, or a different way, or a more efficient way.
So that's the area where you're less confident.
Oh, yeah.
Interjecting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say usually when I'm coaching women, I just talk to women today, like you have to be political with when you speak up and when you don't. It is a muscle that one has to exercise, and I'm sure as a co-founder of an organization, there's probably things she wants to say all the time that she doesn't, because you have to be able to, you have to be calculated to think about and calculate in a good way of when do you speak up and when you don't. But anyone else?
I feel like the area that I have the most confidence in is walking into in creating connection, in having absolutely no walls between human beings, where I feel like there could be a wonderful connection with people of any race, social status. Nothing stops me from finding beauty in anybody, and finding a link to connect to them and translating that to other people, so the community can get bigger and then be able to make things out of that, and also simply creating a feeling of well-being, I think, through connection. The other part is walking into anybody's kitchen at any moment, anywhere, with any ingredients, and creating a badass meal.
Next time we're going to go to the chef's kitchen.
Yeah, with pleasure. The least where I have the most challenge is to translate that into into numbers. If it has to become a fundraiser or something like that, the connection, I don't see it necessarily how it happens through numbers, how to make that into growth, to create wealth for people, or how to translate those things, the emotional, the connections, all that into financial, into numbers. And that's where I am right now.
For me, it's pretty easy to meet new people, kind of a little similar in terms of connecting and just literally just walking into a space and just making friends right away. I think I've just been really good at that. Or I think also thank college for being social, because I can just pick up and go and just have a conversation and just connect in different ways. And then from there, I find myself more as I'm connecting with more people through Quilt, as they're sharing their life with me, and I'm like, oh, you need to meet this person, oh, you need to do this. It's crazy. I find myself doing that constantly. This morning, a friend of mine was just like, I'm doing personal training now, and I was like, you need to go do this, you need to connect with this person, and she just looked at me and was like, oh, sorry, I'm doing it again, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay. But it's pretty interesting in terms of just feeling comfortable and connecting people and bringing that together.
I guess we're just all the same guy. We all just showed up here with strangers. It's not surprising that, I've never met a stranger. I've been his friend. And I can connect, as you've said, with all ages and whatever. My husband has never met a friend. You got to work your way in with him. So we're actually a good vibe. But yeah, it's a wonderful skill to have to create connections, and I feel like that's what my strength would be as well. I would imagine my weakness, or just my question is, with a lot of leadership skills that I feel like I have, when I'm assigned a task, when there's something that needs to be done, I get it done. And I'm really good at bringing out other people's strengths to help me, and it's efficient and it gets done. But I want those leadership skills to translate into, I would like to be a leader someday. But it's so fascinating you mentioned the distinction between the two, because I feel like I would not or want to lead and I'm wondering if I'm limiting myself. I would rather be the person on the ground in the field getting done. But I look at the leaders sometimes and I think, oh, I could do that better, but then I don't. And part of it is I think it's restricting being the leader because you've got to factor in other agendas and keep things straight. But I'm always wondering why I'm not taking the next step to be a leader. With leadership skills, you think it would work out okay.
So I would probably push you to say that you are operating in a role as a leader, but I think we have conflated it with a title. Like, I need to be the president of this or the vice president of this. That's why, it's important. I always make the distinction between leader and leadership. What we want in the world is for people to exercise leadership regardless of the position that you're in. Right? And so what I heard you saying as I was listening to the song Beneath Your Words is that you exercise leadership wherever you go. Right? You have people that, you are coaching and you are doing that already. One doesn't need a formal position. And, when I opened up and talked about leadership, you notice the definition didn't say a leader. It says the mobilizing of people, right? It doesn't have to necessarily have, a role. I mean, we can talk offline about all the things that come with having a positional title. But in reality, we all have authority that's given to us, right? You have authority that's formally given to you by a title of CEO, but you also have authority that's informally given to you. We all have two types. You have authority that's informally given to you because what I heard you say when you were sitting here is that people come to you. You actually exercise leadership. You are giving suggestions to people. That's authority. People are trusting your voice for something. And we don't just give people authority in our lives for no reason. We give them that because there's something about them that either motivates us or is a role model or shows us how to get things done. So
don't you think that leadership in what you're saying is, like you say, and I feel very fulfilled in this role. It's less valued in society than being a leader, and I'm always being encouraged, you should go on, you should try for something. And I don't, because I kind of like what I'm doing, but it's interesting that I believe you, and I feel that leadership is important and valuable to lead, but the rest of society kind of be the leader to sort of get recognition. Is that just me?
Well, I don't want to just keep it back and forth between us. I want other folks to hop in, and but I'm pushing against. Let's take it.
My mom
has called you.
Nice to meet you.
And check out Quilt.com. There's a lot of great chats happening on here from a lot of great folks. Trust me.
Thank you so
Check
much.
it out.
I'm looking forward to joining the platform.
Hi.
I don't want to keep it back and forth because I know there's other thoughts in the room. There's just so much more that we can dive into. I don't want to cut it off.
One question that came to mind when you said that, I thought it's so interesting. I think that, and I wonder if other people feel this way, like women are doers, I think, or more often women are really good at doing. They're like excellent at it. And I feel like sometimes I felt that way too, like sometimes it stops me from keep going because I'm like, I'm really good at like doing and for lack of a better word, like getting shit done. But then it's like, but what else? Like, and I wonder if in your work you have found that oftentimes you'll see women who are just like good at doing and therefore excellent examples of like how to do things well and right, then like how do you take that next step of like, okay, I'm good at doing it, how can I like help to lead people in doing it as a leader
in a formal role.
In a formal role as a leader. Also that's nice too.
That's a whole other conversation. What I say all that to say is that again, I am a person that likes to push the envelope, and I'm comfortable with pushing the envelope in whatever organization that I go into. And especially, it turned out that I just ended up coaching mostly women. Oftentimes, white women and women of color. It just laid out that way when I was doing the work and when I'm still in the work. And you said doing. I'm doing things. I'm getting shit done. The definition of leadership is to mobilize people to tackle tough challenges and thrive. You tell me you get stuff done, which means you probably have challenges along the way, and you get stuff done, which means you accomplish whatever task it is. You don't do it by yourself because no one operates in a silo, so you pull people along. So you're exercising leadership. When I say what does it mean to lead in today's world as a woman, we have to be able to be comfortable and confident to share that and speak that in our work environment. That you do have a history of demonstrating leadership even without roles, a formal role. And so you have to, this is a part of our stepping out of our comfort zone as women to push the envelope and say, actually, I do have a record. I do have a record of bringing change in this organization. And here are the 7 ways that I've done it. And be comfortable with, because you know it's your truth. It is that. And that's when we go for that X, Y, and Z, whatever role it is. Because I do believe you want to, if you're trying to make systemic change in an organization, you do have to get some sort of position of power to make systemic change, right? But you're doing it already. We have to conceive of ourselves as leaders first before we go and ask someone else to give us a raise or to give us a promotion. You gotta believe, honey, that you deserve a right in that seat. That's out the gate. Because if you believe you should be in that seat, it's a matter of pulling other people along.
And what's funny about that, well, not funny, but like, I started to notice that people would look to me in the workplace. I would have like a bad day, but then like everybody sort of changed. So I was like, oh, and everybody was wondering like, what's wrong with Lisa? And it's like, oh, I thought I was having a bad day here in my little corner, but no, you project that energy. And once I started to realize that, I mean, yeah, everybody has bad days, but I was mindful that like they kind of look to me to like, how's today gonna be? Let's get this stuff done. Let's have a great day or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so that's kind of cool when you get to notice that, like, oh shoot, I am in some sort of leadership, not like per se in the title, but some form of leadership role within the team. So,
Informal, you're informally.
Yeah.
I think that distinction between leader and leadership provides that platform, because you're talking about leadership qualities as opposed to the title or what it means to be a formal leader. And I think with that framing, at least for me, it shifts the way that I've always thought about it. Because for me, there's been like, oh, you're a leader, but not the distinction between the two. And just seeing our own unique gifts in that. So
I found this whole conversation helpful about the value of leadership as not just a soft skill, as an important engine to things. Even if you're not a leader.
And again, leader, it is people, again, it's giving you authority to perform a service. There's formal, which is the CEO, and there's informal. Informal are all the things you're doing that's not a part of your job description, that you're not getting extra compensation for, but you're making ish happen where you are. That's informal, right? Because it doesn't have a formal title, but you are. So that's, we can leave here with anything. It's to push you to see that I've not heard anyone say something that they're not doing something against the norm and mobilizing and getting people to do what needs to get done. So as we wrap up the conversation, the last question that I had, are we have time to do one last question?
yeah, go for it.
The last question I had was, and this really picks up on some of what you all were talking about, is you can just take a moment to think about your own particular life. You can use the context of work. You can use the context of your friendship circle, your family circle, if you're a parent, and to think about how do you bring your unique skills of leadership. Because we just talked about this. You all started the conversation with what does it mean to exercise leadership. You all have thought about what your strengths are, what you bring to the table. So I want you to think about an area in your life where you want to take action to exercise leadership in and really own it. And really think of it as this area has been sort of tapping your shoulder, but you maybe have shied away from it because you're like, no, this is not me, but it keeps happening. So just take a moment to think about what that might be for you.
I'll go. So for me, it's always, and it's something that I never struggled with in my first business, but in this one, being a co-founder of relationship, there is always a consideration of another person's opinion in a much more integrated way than I previously experienced. And so I think that there is, as you were speaking about earlier, that that there is a not in a manipulative way, but a calculation in regards to when you speak to certain things and when you don't, and a consideration of someone else's feelings or where things are at that day, and just being like, okay, maybe it's not that urgent, maybe we talk about this tomorrow. But something that I really am working on exercising, and something that feels relevant for me right now is that's fine to wait, but not to not speak. Because I think then, inevitably you can work through most things, if not arguably everything, on your own. You don't actually need to have conversations a lot of the time, whether it's your meditation practice or what that might be for people. But I think I have a tendency to fall into a habit of kind of like resolving it but never speaking, which I think can be a very slippery sign in some things.
And some people don't appreciate that, and that's why I think it's also slow because you think, problem, like to solve a problem, you need to talk to the problem. But like me, I have to figure it out in here before I can even address it, and that's something that I was going to say that I do want to get better with within my family, my intermediate family, because we want to lead with love, and so I like to take a minute to wait on it, think about it first, and then you end up just like, it's okay, it was yesterday, today's a new day, but sometimes the same things will arise again, and you want to address it, but you just let it go again, and you just keep letting it go because you just keep dealing with it on your own, So I think that's what
I've always struggled with is trusting my I am exactly who I'm supposed to be, and that I can encourage other people to be who exactly they're supposed to be, in the sense of I think so many times I wait for permission to pour into people, and just realizing that you don't need that. You can just go and love people, and just encourage them to pursue authentic confidence, I think, is another huge thing. But while maintaining what I talked about earlier, that humility and humbleness. But yeah, I feel like that's a huge thing for me. In the sense of leadership, I just feel like I feel really called to just pour into people and hear stories too, and just find a common theme in both of our stories. Maybe they're completely different stories, but I feel like we can all bond in some way, whether it be suffering or laughter. We were meant to bond as humans, so.
I love that.